This document is not merely a statement of American priorities. It is a declaration of how the world's most powerful country now understands power, alliances, and competition. For countries like the Philippines, which are strategically located, economically developing, and geopolitically exposed, this strategy has direct and profound consequences. The 2025 U.S. National Security Strategy marks a decisive shift away from post-Cold War globalism toward a narrower, interest-based approach. It explicitly rejects open-ended ideological missions and instead focuses on strategic discipline, aligning objectives with available means and avoiding overextension. It is defining its interests more strictly and asking harder questions to its allies. What do you bring to the table? President Trump himself summarized it succinctly, Mr. President. To focus on everything is to focus on nothing. At its core, the strategy asserts more on the survival and security of the United States of America as a sovereign republic, it being the paramount objective. Everything else, alliances, trade, diplomacy, military presence, is subordinate to that goal. The strategy is anchored on several principles. One, America first, defined not as isolationism, but as a prioritizing U.S. workers, industry, and sovereignty. Two, peace through strength, requiring the strongest economy, advanced technology, and most capable military in the world. Three, economic nationalism, including reshoring industry and securing critical supply chains. Four, fairness and burden sharing, rejecting free riding by allies and encouraging greater investment in one's own defense. And five, primary of national sovereignty, putting national interests over transnational governance. Mr. President, this is a leading global force that no longer apologizes for power and no longer subsidizes partners who do not invest in their own defense or economic future. The strategy makes unmistakably clear that the United States seeks to reassert comprehensive primacy in its own neighborhood. It declares that the Western Hemisphere must be secured politically, economically, commercially, and militarily under U.S. leadership, an approach described as the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. Nowhere in this shift more consequential than in the Indo-Pacific region. The strategy identifies the Indo-Pacific as the central arena of long-term strategic contention, particularly with China. U.S. objectives include preventing the dominance of critical maritime choke points, maintaining freedom of navigation and overflight, securing supply chains and deterring conflict, especially in Taiwan and the troubled South China Sea. Central to this effort is what strategists call the first island chain, a defensive arc stretching from Japan through Taiwan, the Philippines, and down through Indonesia. The strategy explicitly clarifies that the U.S. diplomacy should press allies and partners along this chain to grant greater access to ports and facilities, spend more on their own defense, and invest in credible deterrent capabilities. Mr. President, let us be clear. The Philippines is no longer peripheral. Our geography alone places us at the heart of this strategic struggle. This reality presents both opportunity and risk. First, heightened strategic importance is tied with conditions. As a treaty ally along vital sea lanes and adjacent to the South China Sea, the Philippines is now of increased strategic value to the United States. Our territory, ports, airfields, and maritime domain are viewed as critical assets. But the strategy is loud and clear, Mr. President. Support is conditional. Allies are expected to contribute and not just to play host. Defense cooperation will increasingly depend on our willingness to invest in our own capabilities, improve interoperability, and demonstrate strategic seriousness. The strategic shift compels us to ask a difficult but necessary question. Where does equity come in? For decades, the Philippines has acted in good faith as a treaty ally. We have costed the 2014 Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, which strengthened the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty between the Republic of the Philippines and the United States of America. In 2023, we expanded from 5 existing EDCA locations to 4 more locations, opening our territory, airspace, and communities to magnify U.S. presence. For many years, this arrangement was justified by the understanding that the Mutual Defense Treaty served as a reliable security umbrella, assuring us that deterrence and protection were shared responsibilities. Yet today, even as we have provided access and geography, the new doctrine signals that these resources are no longer sufficient. We are now told point blank that unless we invest more, spend more, and field greater capabilities, support is conditional. This raises a profound implication, Mr. President. The long-standing assumption that alliance alone guarantees security is no longer valid. As a nation that placed deep trust in the immutability of the U.S. policy, we must now reckon with the reality that strategic realities can change abruptly, even for long-time allies. The lesson is sobering but clarifying. Our security cannot solely rely on inherited commitments or empty assurances. It must be grounded on our own capacity, our own investments, and our own resolve to defend the Republic, regardless of shifts in the policies or even our closest friends. Second, there will be a shift from purely aid to capability-based partnerships. The era of dependency now appears to be a thing of the past. The United States now prefers partnerships based on capability, contribution, and alignment. Countries that fail to modernize their armed forces or protect their own maritime interests risk marginalization, even if they are treaty allies. This should concern us, Mr. President. In this evolving strategic equation, the Mutual Defense Treaty now rests on a fundamentally new equilibrium. While the treaty remains in force and continues to symbolize a shared commitment to peace and stability, its practical meaning has shifted from automatic assurance to conditional partnership. Defense commitments are no longer viewed as standing guarantees rooted in history, but as arrangement contingent on demonstrated capability, burden sharing, and strategic alignment. We have debated AFP modernization for years, Mr. President, yet projects are delayed, budgets questioned, and priorities shifted. Meanwhile, our fishermen continue to face harassment and our patrols remain limited. Sovereignty cannot rest on press releases alone. It requires ships, aircraft, trained personnel, sustained political will, and defending our maritime rights with credibility and certainty, not mere rhetoric. Legitimate sovereignty requires the ability to protect it. Third, we must realize that economic security is national security. The strategy treats economic power as inseparable from national security. The U.S. is actively diversifying supply chains away from China, creating opportunities for manufacturing, semiconductors, electronics, and digital services. This is a historic opportunity for the Philippines, but competition will be fierce. Southeast Asian states are racing to attract same investments. Those with unreliable power, weak infrastructure, regulatory instability, or policy inconsistency will be bypassed. We all know the hard and inconvenient truths. High electricity prices, corruption, bad governance, and uncertainty in rules would continue to hold us back, Mr. President. Strategic relevance today depends on economic relevance. If we wish to be trusted supply chain partner, we must ensure reliable and affordable energy, modernize ports, logistics, and transport networks, create stable, predictable investment rules, and align education and workforce development with high-value industries. Sa huli, ito ang pinakamahalagang aral para sa atin. Walang bansang tunay na iginagalang kung wala tayong kakayahang ipagtanggol ang sarili, lalo na yung soberenya at itaguyod ang sariling kaunlaran. Ang pakikipag-alyansa ay hindi kapalit ng pambansang lakas. Ito ay nagiging makabuluhan lamang kung ang bansa ay may malinaw na direksyon, matatag na ekonomiya at kakayahang ipagtanggol ang kanyang teritoryo. Ang hamon sa atin na hindi pumili ng panig ng tunggalian ng mga bansang makapangyarihan, kundi tiyaking handa ang Pilipinas sa lahat ng pagkakataon. Gawin nating halimbawa ang Singapore. Taong 1965 nang sila ay tanggalin sa Federasyon ng Malaya. Umagulgol si Lee Kuan Yew sa harap ng publiko at pinangakuan ng kanilang mamamayan na tatayo sila sa sarili nilang mga paa at magtatagumpay. At tingnan natin ngayon, Mr. President, napalago nga nila ng mabilis ang kanilang bansa. Naging sentro ng kalakalan at teknolohiya, napaunlad ang edukasyon, pabahay at serbisyong pangkalusugan at napabilang sa mga bansang itinuturing na First World. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the 2025 U.S. National Security Strategy signals a world where power, production, and sovereignty matter again. For the Philippines, this is neither a call for submission nor confrontation. It is a call for strategic clarity. We must understand that alliances are strongest when they rest on mutual capability, not dependency. Economic development without security is fragile. Security without economic strength is unsustainable. If we prepare, invest, and act decisively, we can protect our sovereignty, strengthen our economy, and secure prosperity for future generations. If we remain passive, underprepared, and reactive, we risk being sidelined in a world that no longer waits for those who hesitate. The lesson before us is clear, Mr. President. National development, defense, readiness, and strategic purpose must move together. Sa panahong nagbabago ang balanse ng kapangyarihan sa mundo, ang pinakamahalagang paninindigan ng Pilipinas ay ang manatiling matatag, handa at makiling sa sariling interes at pambansang kagalingan. Maraming salamat, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Sa mga gustong primary committee ito, sa foreign relations o sa national relations? We can make it joint. Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we refer the speech of our distinguished colleague, Senator Rodante Marcoleta, which is very, very important in light of so many things that are happening now in the world order, Mr. President, to the Committee on National Defense as the primary committee and the Committee on Foreign Relations as the secondary committee. I so move, Mr. President.
Hearing no objection, the privileged speech is hereby referred to the Committee on Defense and the Committee on Foreign Relations.
Okay lang. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, yes, we have. Okay, I move for additional reference to business, Mr. President. Okay lang.
Sir, ito na ba yun?
Additional reference to business. Anyway, Majority Leader, we have additional reference to business so
Yes,
that we
Mr.
can
President, I
continue
move
with
for the reference of business additional.
All right, the Secretary will proceed with the reference of the additional reference of business.
Additional reference of business, bills on first reading. Senate Bill 1616, an act prohibiting the establishment of political dynasties by Senator Ejercito.
Referred to the Committees on Electoral Reforms and Constitutional Amendments.
Senate Bill 1617, an act declaring a one-time amnesty on all unpaid internal revenue taxes imposed by the national government for taxable year 2024 and prior years by Senator Ejercito.
Referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
1618, an act further amending Republic Act Number 11213 or the Tax Amnesty Act as amended by RA Number 11569 and RA 11956 by extending the period of availment of the estate tax amnesty until June 14, 2027 by Senator Ejercito.
Referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
1619, an act promoting rice security by ensuring the adequate supply and stable price of rice and strengthening the mandate of the National Food Authority, amending for the purpose RA number 8178, otherwise known as the Agricultural Tarification Act, as amended by Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Agriculture, Ways and Means, and Finance.
1620, an act amending sections 3 and 7 of RA 10931, otherwise known as the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, to enhance efficiency, equity, and accountability of the tertiary education subsidy program by Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
1621, an act expanding the purpose and application of the Special Education Fund, amending for the purpose section 272 of RA 7160, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991, and for other purposes by Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Local Government, Basic Education, Ways and Means, and Finance.
1622, an act promoting business competitiveness by providing temporary tax relief to single proprietorships, cooperatives, partnerships, or corporations classified as micro, small, and medium enterprises by Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Trade and Ways and Means.
1623, an act strengthening the people's right to information on matters of public concern and implementing the state policy of full public disclosure of all its transactions involving public interest, providing mechanisms for their effective exercise and for other purposes by Senator Hontiveros.
To the Committees on Public Information, Civil Service, and Finance.
Resolution, PSR 206, resolution congratulating and commending the Philippine Practical Shooting Team on their winning performance in the 2025 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Chonburi, Thailand by Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee report. Committee report number 22, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Agriculture, Food and Agrarian Reform and Finance on Senate Bill number 1624 with Senators Pangilinan and Marcos as authors thereof. An act creating a Congressional Commission on Agricultural Fisheries and Food Security to review, assess, and evaluate the state of Philippine agriculture and recommend innovative and targeted policy reforms in agriculture, appropriating funds, therefore, recommending its approval and substitution of Senate Bill numbers 1199 and 1345, sponsor Senator Pangilinan.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to transfer from the calendar of ordinary business to special order Senate Bill number 1624 under Committee Report number 22. I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, it's so transferred.
I move that we consider the measure, Mr. President, Senate Bill number
Any
162.
objection? Hearing none, consideration is in order.
May we ask the Secretary to read the title?
Secretary will read the title of the measure without, oh yes, go ahead, it's not a resolution. You may proceed with the title.
Senate Bill number 1624, an act creating a Congressional Commission on Agriculture, Fisheries, and Food Security to review, assess, and evaluate the state of Philippine agriculture and recommend innovative and targeted policy reforms in agriculture, appropriating funds, therefore.
Mr. President, may we recognize the sponsor of the measure, no other than distinguished Chairman of the Committee on Agriculture, Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan.
The Chairman of the Committee on Agriculture, Senator Francis Pangilinan, is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo, sa ating mga natatanging kasamahan. Kinalulugod kong sponsor ang Senate Bill 1624, ang Congressional Commission on Agriculture, Fisheries, and Food Security. Nasa krisis ang agrikultura at pangingisda ng ating bansa. Krisis na ramdam sa buhay ng bawat Pilipino. Tulad ni Mang Ambo, na madaling araw pa lang sa Nueva Ecija ay nagahampas na ng lupa. Sa kanyang palayang ilang dekada na rin niyang sinasaka. Pataas ng pataas ang kanyang gastos, abono, krudo, at mga binhing huli kung dumating. Pagdating ay anihan. Trader ang nagdidikta ng presyo. Kulang na kulang ang napagbebentahan niya ng palay para makabayad sa mga inutang. Oo, meron siyang masasaing na bigas, pero wala ng pera para ayusin ang sirang bubong o makapagtabi para sa susunod na bagyo. Wala rin sa 4 niyang anak ang gustong magsaka. Sa Santa Cruz, Manila naman, may isang nanay na 2 anak ang nagbibilang ng dalang barya sa tapat ng karinderya. 20 pesos na ang isang cup ng kanin, 1 cup of rice. Mahal kahit pritong galunggong at pakbet. Kaya ipagkakasya na lang niya ang 1 cup of rice para sa kanilang mag-iina at bibili na lang ng instant pansit canton na 20 pesos din. Hindi na siya pupunta sa talipapa. Kaya hindi niya, ika nga, namamarites na maraming gulay galing Benguet ang nabubulok. Nabubulok lang. Hindi kilometro ang sukatan ng layo ng sakahan ni Mang Ambo at ng pinggan ng nasabing nanay. Nasusukat ang layo sa wasak na sistema, sa inaaksayang ani at sa mga patakarang hindi kumukunik. Ito ang krisis na kinahaharap natin. Nagkakandakakuba sa hirap at edad ang mga magsasaka at mangingisda, mataas at sumpungin ang presyo ng pagkain, at milyong-milyong pamilyang Pilipino ang walang kakayahang kumain ng masustansya at sapat sa bansang mayaman ng dagat at lupa. The Agriculture, Fisheries, and Food Security Commission is not just another committee. It is a chance to finally confront what is broken in our agri and fisheries sector and fix it before the costs grow even higher and the hunger affects even more. Pagkakataon pa para harapin at ayusin ang sira bago pa lumobo ang gastos. Ilang dekada na rin tayong nagpapasa ng mga batas, pinopondohan ng mga programa para dalhin sa bagong siglo ang agriculture ng Pilipinas. Pero nananatiling mababa ang ani, huli at kita ng mga magsasaka at mangingisda kumpara sa mga bansa sa ating rehiyon. At tayo ang pinakamalaking rice importer pa rin sa buong mundo. Kanya-kanyang magtrabaho at kanya-kanyang kamalig ang mga ahensya ng pamahalaan. DA sa produksyon, DAR sa lupa, hiwalay rin ang DNR at ang inaasahang mula sa mga LGU. Nagkapatong-patong ang mga mandato, nagbabanggaan ang mga patakaran, at naglalaho ang pananagutan. Mahalaga ang gawain ng mga nabanggit na ahensya pero wala sa disenyo para tumigil sandali at pilitang sagutin ang pinakamahirap na tanong. Ano ang ugat ng krisis sa agrikultura at pangingisda at ano ang kinakailangang gawin para baguhin ito? Yan ang papel ng Agricom. Similar to the education commissions that confronted our education and learning crisis, Agricom is envisioned as a time-bound, high-level congressional body with a singular mission to examine Philippine agriculture and fisheries in its entirety, and to recommend concrete, targeted reforms that government is politically bound to act on. Hindi isa pang permanenteng burokrasya ang Agricom. It is a 3-year intervention with urgency built into its design. First, it will take an unflinching look at the entire Philippine food system, yung supply chain, yung mga batas, mandates, price formation, climate risks, and lived experiences ng ating mga magsasaka, mangingisda, mga trader, middlemen, mga consumer, mga wholesale buyers, mga retailers. Tatanungin ng Agricom bakit hindi makausad ang ating agrikultura sa kabila ng napaka-abanteng mga batas? Bakit napakataas pa rin ng post-harvest losses? Bakit napakalayo ng presyo sa sakahan kumpara sa presyo sa palengke? Pangalawa, wawakasan nito ang pagkaligalig sa mga institusyon. Ngayon, hinaharap ng mga magsasaka ang isang ahensya para sa inputs, iba namang ahensya para sa lupa, iba pa rin para sa pautang, madalas walang koordinasyon at maliit ang pananagutan. Kakalasin ng Agricom itong ligalig at magbibilin ng mas malinaw, mas naunawaang paraan sa ng pamamahala sa pagkain at agrikultura. Third, it will lay down medium and long-term development paths with measurable targets, higher yields, higher incomes, better infrastructure, stronger market access, and real climate resilience. Ang mahalaga, hindi matatapos sa mga plano ang trabaho. It will recommend specific laws, budget priorities, institutional reforms, and report regularly to Congress on what must be done. Panghuli, bibigyan puwang ng Agricom ang mga nagpapakain sa bansa. Sentro sa prosesong ito ang mga magsasaka, mangingisda, agrarian reform beneficiaries, indigenous communities, scientists, agribusiness practitioners, logistics providers, LGUs, at civil society. May mga nagtatanong, hindi ba masyadong mabagal ang 3 taon para sa kagyat na problema? Nandito ang gutom at mas mataas na ang presyo ng bilihin. Sinisikipan na mismo ng mga magulang ang kanilang mga sinturon, nalulunod na ang ating mga magsasaka sa utang, tila peligroso maghintay. Dalawa ang tracks, now and next. Immediate measures can and must happen now. Fully implement Sagip-Saka so government buys directly from farmers and fishers, expand feeding and nutrition programs, provide credit and inputs, crack down on smuggling and hoarding. None of these require waiting for a commission. Iba ang papel ng Agricom. It is a surgical team tasked to fix the deep recurring failures that keep producing the same crisis year after year. Fragmented mandates, misaligned incentives, weak extension and data systems, underinvestment in research and infrastructure, dysfunctional supply chains from farm to city, exploitative and oppressive economic relations in the agri and fisheries sector, and regulatory capture, corruption in the bureaucracy. Ano ang ibig sabihin ng tunay na food security? Sapat na kita para sa mga magsasaka at mangingisda. Mga sistema ng food production na kayang labanan ang pagbaha, pagtuyot, bumibili ang mga paaralan, mga ospital ng gobyerno, feeding programs mula sa local producers, pinatatatag ang pamilihan ng paggasta ng pamahalaan. Tumatagos ang mga layuning ito sa anumang ahensya at batas na may kinalaman sa pagkain. Walang iisang departamento ang makakapaghanay at makakapag-isa sa kanila. Kaya natin itatayo ang Agricom. Its value lies in creating a politically powerful, technically grounded center that can finally say, ito ang daan mula sa sakahan patungo sa pinggan. At ito ang mga kailangang reforma para madaanan ito. Mr. President, sa taong 2027, 30 taon na ang RA 8435 o ang Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Act of 1997. At matapos ang halos 3 dekada, ang Pilipinas ang pinakamalaking importer ng bigas sa buong mundo, isa sa pinakamataas ang presyo ng pagkain sa Southeast Asia, at nasa doble ang poverty incidence sa hanay ng magsasaka at mangingisda kumpara sa buong populasyon. Sa huli, isang pasya o desisyon para sa maraming henerasyon ang Agricom. Papayag ba tayong ganito pa rin sa susunod na mga dekada? Na nauubos ang mga magsasaka, na hirap-hirap ang mga mangingisda sa mga sinisimot ng yamang dagat, na pataas ng pataas ang presyo ng pagkain kahit junk food O gagamitin ba natin itong krisis para itayo muli ang isang bansang marunong pakainin ang sarili? Sisiguraduhin ng Agricom na ang Estado ay nasa likod at sumusuporta sa lahat ng nagtatanim at nangingisda. Ang tagal na nating ipinagliliban ang reforma. Hindi na tayo makakapaghintay pa. Ngayon, ang panahon ng pagkilos, buuin na natin ang Agri and Fisheries Food Security Commission. Huwag nating itapon ang pagkakataong ito. Salamat po.
Majority Leader.
Next to co-sponsor the measure, Mr. President, our distinguished colleague from Tarlac and Pampanga, Senator Rodante Marcoleta.
Senator Dante Marcoleta is recognized.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Noong isang linggo po, Mr. President, ako po ay dumalaw sa munisipyo ng Claveria sa Cagayan Valley. Kahit po tayo ay abala sa ating gawain dito, ay pinagbigyan ko po na mabisita yung mga magsasaka sa lugar na yon, sapagkat una ko po silang nakausap noong 2022, Mr. President. At nung balikan ko sila nung isang linggo ay hindi mo maipinta sa kanilang mga mukha, Mr. President, ang kagalakan sapagkat nakita nila yung kaganapan ng mga ipinangako natin, lalong-lalo na po yung tatlong water impounding dams po na nakatutulong po sa kanilang pagsasaka ngayon. 3 barangay po yon, Mr. President, ang barangay Baksay, ang barangay Tabugan, at saka yung barangay Union. Nakakaingit po ang nakita ko, Mr. President, sapagkat kagaya naman po ng alam nyo, ako rin po ay lumaking isang magsasaka. Sana yung nakita kong yon ay magawa sa iba't ibang panig ng ating bansa. Napakalaki po ng iniunlad ng kanilang pagsasaka, Mr. President. Kung di po ako nagkakamali, ay nakuha nilang madoble yung kanilang output sa pagsasaka. Tuwan-tuwa po sila at di nila malaman kung paano sila magpapasalamat sa mga biyayang nakamit po nila, sapagkat doon po ay nakita nila na ang isang proyekto na hindi kinapalooban ng kahit anong korupsyon, ganun pala kanya. Kapag wala palang korupsyon ang isang proyekto, makikita mo yung pagkakagawa niya at alam na alam mo na ito'y magiging kinabukasan na ng aming mga pamilya. Nakita po nila yung katatagan ng mga OG dams, Mr. President, at saka yung mga irrigation links po na dumaloy sa kanilang mga sakahan. Pagkatapos po ay tumuloy ako sa Pidig, isa pong munisipyo ng Ilocos Norte, Mr. President. Nakita ko po ang isang modernong rice mill na may kasama pong drying facilities. Nainggit na naman po ako sapagkat sa tagal ko po sa aking barangay sa Paniki, Tarlac, wala po akong nakitang ganong pasilidad. Napakaganda po. Kami po nung kami nagsasaka pa po, maraming taon na nakararaan, Mr. President. Nagbibilad po kami ng palay sa plaza po ng munisipyo. Nakikigagawan po sa araw kung para lang po maibilad yung aming mga palay. Kung minsan naman po sa kalsada, ando na po yung daanan ng kung ano-anong mga sasakyan. Sana po ganun lahat ang mangyari sa lahat ng mga lugar natin sa ating bansa para sa ganun ay yung daloy po ng kaginhawaan ng pagsasaka ay maranasan po lahat ng ating mga kababayan. This is the reason, Mr. President, why I rise today to co-sponsor and to co-author the Senate Bill number 1624 or the Congressional Commission on Agriculture, Fisheries, and Food Security, Agricom Act. As one who grew up to farmer parents and now a proud tiller of a humble lettuce farm in Paniki, Tarlac, Mr. President, this representation has long been a staunch advocate of pursuing concrete and targeted reforms in our agriculture and fisheries sector. Kaya naman noong Agosto pa lamang, Mr. President, sa isa pong pagdinig natin sa mga komite, nabanggit ko na dapat na ring magkaroon ng isang komisyon na titingin sa kalagayan at mga suliraning kinaharap ng ating mga magsasaka at mga mangingisda. With the creation of Agricom, we will undertake a long overdue national assessment and evaluation of what our farmers and fisherfolk need and why they are still left behind. Sa pagitan ng Agricom, magkakaroon tayo ng isang malinaw na mekanismo upang magrekomenda ng mga konkreto, makabuluhan at makabagong reforma na magpapalakas sa ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda. Magtitiyak ng sapat na abot-kayang pagkain sa bawat Pilipino at magtutulak sa Pilipinas na maging globally competitive sa larangan ng agrikultura at pangisdaan. Hindi na bago sa ating kasaysayan ang pagsasabatas ng isang komisyon na siyang tututok sa iba't ibang sektor ng ating lipunan, Mr. President. Under the EPIRA Law o Republic Act 9136 as amended, a Joint Congressional Energy Commission, JCEC, was constituted to exercise oversight in the implementation of all existing energy laws in the country. Sa larangan naman ng edukasyon, nagkaroon na tayo ng dalawang komisyon na naliksik sa estado ng ating edukasyon. Una ay ang First Congressional Commission on Education na binuo sa ilalim ng Joint Resolution Number 02 ng 8th Congress noong 1990. At pangalawa ay ang Second Congressional Commission on Education na naitatag sa ilalim ng Republic Act 11899 noong July 23, 2022. For agriculture, Mr. President, a joint resolution was approved as far back as December 20, 1995 during the 10th Congress, calling for the creation of a congressional commission to review and assess the state of Philippine agriculture. So more than 30 years later, our agriculture sector remains dismal. Ang sabi nga po, kung i-characterize ito, Mr. President, subservience farming na lamang po eh. Ibig sabihin, nagsasaka siya, nagsisikap, nagtitiyaga, ngunit para sa pagkain lang. Bukod doon, wala na po. Patuloy na nabubuhay sa kahirapan ng ating mga magsasaka. Hindi sapat ang ani at ang patuloy na pagdepende sa importasyon para sa pagkaing bigas ng ating mga mamamayan. Ilan lamang ito sa mga problemang dapat nating agarang masolusyonan, Mr. President. So I join the sponsor in pushing for the creation of this Congressional Commission on Agriculture, Fisheries, and Food Security. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Marcoleta. Majority